Hello and welcome back to the Cfctalk podcast. The season is about to start. It is go time for Chelsea FC and all the Premier League clubs where the season starts a week before everywhere else in Europe. So a lot to talk about in this podcast, especially the transfers going out of Chelsea FC in the last month of this window, as well as a few targets that Chelsea still have. And then a conversation about Everton, and none other than Akash joining me to have this conversation. An incredible guy. If you could ask him any question about Chelsea FC all the way from 2000, and he'll have the answer right there. So Akash, your knowledge about Chelsea is really going to help us review this transfer window and what you think is going to come under this new ownership. But how are you doing, Akash? Welcome to the podcast.
I'm good, Mo. Thank you so much for having me on. I know we used to do this pretty often, like a couple of years back, but things got in between. And thank you for the intro as well. I think that's testament to how sad my life is and how much of it revolves around
I
the
think I
club.
think
But yeah,
it's I think it's quite nice to like it's quite nice to like I don't want to phrase this rightly. I don't want to say like a lot of people don't think non-match going fans are real fans, and you're an example of what you set a great example of what non-match going fans can do. And the facts that the information and the experience you have supporting Chelsea. So yeah, it'll be great to have that insight on this podcast. But Akash, let's dive straight into it. Firstly,
yep.
Quick thoughts on whatever's happened on the transfer window so far. Not a lot of news surrounding Chelsea. We've got two key signings, no doubt, but on the other hand, Barca has pretty much gone after every single one of our signings and made sure that it wasn't easy.
Yep. So every part I've been on, I think there's been one section where we've just ranted about Barca for like 5 minutes straight. But I think it's a departure, right? So I look at previous windows where we've just chased targets, and I think we've misprofiled a lot of transfers. So Timo Werner was one player where while we were chasing him, and having watched him for Germany, I was a little unsure of how he'd fit into the squad there, and we've seen him struggle. So I think if we were to think along those lines, Todd Bowley has brought in some structure to how we've chased transfers, right? So both the people who've come in have been people who elevate the quality of the first 11, and I think that's a good way to be looking at transfers. And Fabrizio Romano again tweeted out today, and I think he said it on his YouTube channel that Chelsea are moving in the transfer market. So, and right now we're being linked to Fofana and Dumfries as well, right? So, good noise that we're making in the transfer market, but hopefully a few more outgoings in the coming weeks.
I think on that point, I would like to add and say, and I hope that I think a lot of Chelsea fans think this, is that we've made perfect replacements, having Koulibaly come in for the two defenders that have left, and then with what's it called, with Sterling coming in and probably Werner or Ziyech, one of them, or maybe both of them leaving. We've made the perfect replacements, but we just need to now improve the squad and get players who can improve the squad and take it from the fourth position that we got in the Premier League to maybe a third, or close the gap, at least close the gap. And I want to correct myself there. We've ended up third, but we want to close the gap, which is the main part.
Exactly.
Because
Yeah.
in hindsight, as a Chelsea fan, are you going into this season thinking, right, we can win the title, or are we saying we're just there to another transition season or another season of catching up with Liverpool and Man City?
Uh, it's again a very tough question to answer, right? So going into the 16-17 season, no part of me thought we'd win the league that year. We were helped by not having European fixtures, so I think we were a lot fresher going into the fag end of the season. But I think the right mentality to be going into every season is believing that you'll win it, and especially with Koulibaly, right? He's a player I've loved for years, and I was hoping we'd bring him in 16-17 or the years after, but the move didn't materialize. But even now, his poise on the ball, how he reads the game, how he's not afraid to engage and go into tackles, I think it strengthens an area of the pitch we were lacking after Rudy's departure. And then you have people like Mason Mount growing into his role, demanding more of the ball, showing more responsibility, and Reece James, who I think is the best academy product to have come out of Chelsea since John Terry, right? So you have players like those who are only going to get better with time. So I'm hoping that we find that one patch of maybe 15, 10 to 15 games where we absolutely hit top gear, and we sort of find rhythm. If that happens, then top two is something I think we can crack, but the squad is still quite a bit far away from City, I'd say.
I was talking to someone the other day, and and they were asking my opinion on it, and I was like, look, Chelsea do generally. Where do we lose? I was thinking, and I was saying, look, we've had the squads to win the Premier League. Where have we lost the chat, like the title race, or where have we lost a lot of points? And I've said, oh, that was probably November and December. And then you look at the fixtures this year, there is no November and December, so we're safe from there as long as we can win our games.
For as long as I can remember, those months have been we get off to these flyers, right? Even under Mourinho, I think 6 or 7, and under Ancelotti, and then we got to November, December, and we just forgot to play. Hopefully that doesn't happen in Jan or Feb whenever the season restarts this year. So
I'm really hoping with that. I think, look, I can't sit here and say, oh, we're gonna give Liverpool and Man City both a run for their money, because last year they were incredible, both of these teams. And yes, we've made perfect replacements. We just need a few more signings, and then we should be able to head into the season thinking, and if we get off on a good start compared to Liverpool and Man City, then we can give them a run for their money at least. Maybe not challenge it all the way through, but at least in the first few months, give them a tough battle and show them that we're still in this championship race. But before we even go into the season, there's a lot of talk about Fofana today. I think was it Matt who tweeted it, or maybe Fabrizio Romano? I can't remember who it was, but someone tweeted saying, Leicester are adamant on not letting Fofana go, but Chelsea are also at the same time very adamant on getting him on board. Do you think that deal is something that's going to happen? And the price point, which is a bit of a hiccup for a lot of fans to see around 80 million or 70 million being thrown around for a player like Fofana, is it worth it, or should we just give it a year? Because again, next year clubs will want to target him, since he's going to only have a 1-year contract remaining, because he's only signed for 2 years.
So how I look at it is, if we don't sign Fofana or we don't sign anyone else in defense, right? Our first choice, front three in defense, our first choice back three in defense is probably going to be Chalobah, Thiago Silva, and Koulibaly. Thiago and Koulibaly I have no worries about at all, but Chalobah, someone who's still learning the game, right? So there are going to be patches where he lets people in behind, or he's too rash inside the box, and it's a perfectly normal thing. But there has to be a backup plan of equally good quality, or someone who personally I can trust putting into a match against, let's say, Man City or Liverpool, and then say, he's done that before. Fofana, for me, was one of the best young talents before he went into Leicester. I think there was one match he played in the French Cup and his direct opponent was Mbappe and Neymar, right? And he owned them for the entirety of the match. That's the sort of stature that Fofana has, and I'm biased because I'm a huge fan, but considering defenses, we've lost Aspi. We will lose Aspi, I'm guessing. I'm hoping he stays for 1 more year, but not too probable there. We lose Aspi. We've lost Rudy. We will, and we lost Christensen as well.
Perfect.
So there's 3 top quality signings that are leaving out of the back. So, and we've signed how many people? One guy's coming. Koulibaly's coming. We definitely need, in my opinion, 2 more people of top quality there, but Fofana is definitely a start, and I'm hoping that happens in the next few days.
I think the main thing that I'm more concerned about is the age factor for Silva, and to a certain extent Koulibaly, because Chelsea, even if we play 60 games a season, and if with the players that we've got right now, you can't expect Thiago Silva and Koulibaly and Chalobah, all 3, to just play 60 games a season, because even as backup defenders, Colwill hasn't had much experience in the Premier League, hasn't had that first team experience to come in and replace someone like Thiago Silva for a game or 2 games when Thiago Silva needs a rest. And I'm sorry. I think you're right with the deal Fulham have offered, or Fulham targeting him is perfect for Chelsea, and this is the time for us to show, right, we're not going to use Sarr. Let's get rid of him. It's time that we stop thinking about 5 years in the line for certain players when they've not performed in the last few years, and it's pretty clear that they're not going to increase. They're not going to better themselves at Chelsea. Denzel Dumfries, another name on it as well. Do you think that's going to be Chelsea's main target if Fofana doesn't succeed? Because I think with Leicester, we're probably going to hear an answer from Leicester this week or by next week, whether they're even going to be interested in any more bids coming from Chelsea. Because for sure, Chelsea don't seem like they want to pay 80 million for it. But is Dumfries the right option for Chelsea to go for?
Considering that Tuchel wants him, and we've heard his name in the window before as well, right? So considering that Tuchel and Boli are the people leading transfers, it definitely looks like they're interested in Dumfries, and so we've chased this profile before as well, right? We had Hakimi,
Yeah,
who's the kind of guy who can, carry the ball out wide, take people one on one, which is something that Tuchel wanted last year, and a lot of people were against it because it chased Livramento out. But we definitely needed that presence in the squad, a wing back cover, which we figured out when Reece got injured, right?
it
So
cost us quite a lot that we didn't go
it
into
did.
that season
So
with a backup.
exactly, our
Yeah,
creativity disappeared like overnight. Chilwell got injured, and then Reece got injured, and then we became this one-dimensional team who was just recycling the ball endlessly from defense to midfield. So having that cover and having the different profile will definitely help. Dumfries, I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on Inter. I watched them very sparingly,
yeah,
only because I wanted to watch Roma in the league under Jose, and
yeah.
I wanted to watch Skriniar because I'm a fan.
They're also looking very strong, by the way, Roma.
Exactly. So
Dybala's, yeah,
this year is going to be Syria as well every week
yeah.
because I want Jose Mourinho to win one league title again, just for people to stop saying he's finished that way. Dumfries looks like the guy who's not afraid to beat his man, and yeah, I've seen a couple of goals where he sort of ghosted in behind his marker, headed things in. So that's something that our squad right now doesn't have in abundance out wide. And I'm not averse to the signing. A lot of people are saying that he'll block Livramento next year, but why think that far ahead when Tuchel might not even be there in that time, right? If he doesn't perform, if he doesn't have 20 players in the squad he can trust week in, week out, I don't think he's going to last too long in the job if he doesn't deliver results. So I don't blame Tuchel for thinking maybe too short term for some people's liking. This.
But do you think this new ownership that we're under now, are they going to operate the same way Roman Abramovich has been operating, where if you don't succeed or you don't meet the goals for one season, you're out of the door? Or is it going to be
Yeah,
a more Man City or Liverpool like, run
hopefully not,
or show?
but uh, again, right? So there is going to be pressure on Tuchel for sure. We're regardless of what people think, we're one of the biggest
Yeah,
clubs in the world, and there's been a ton of investment in infrastructure, in the academy, and multiple other things. So there is definitely onus on Tuchel to deliver. And as long as we're thereabouts in the top 3 to 4, shouldn't be too much of an issue. But let's say what happened under Mourinho in 15-16 happens here, right? If we're like languishing at 8th or ninth come the middle of the season, I don't see the fan base or the owners giving a, a sinking ship too much time. So that way, we definitely need to give Tuchel the profiles he wants, where he wants them. For instance, look at Pep. He came in, he tried to play his style of football with people like Clichy and Sanya in defense. It didn't work out at all. He went ahead and spent like 150 million just on wing backs, right? And that is maybe the kind of investment modern football requires. And Tuchel demanding it isn't wrong in my head. And hopefully, Boli and team have the vision to sort of back him and give him the structure he needs to succeed.
yeah, I agree. I think no, I think I'd like to think this is going to be a bit of a different management style. As much as I love Chelsea, or because I'm someone who started watching under the Roman era, I've always seen Chelsea as the giants who've won every season or they've dominated every season. So seeing that little bump in the road, I guess, under Lampard, but when we didn't win anything, but and the transfer ban, and then Sarri as well, it wasn't the best of footballs, and now under Tuchel, where last season we kind of struggled, but even before that we won trophies.
Yep.
I do want to see Tuchel at the club 3 years, 4 years down the line, even if we get consistently second, consistently third, just because at the moment he's got to play with players. I think if you look at the Tuchel transfer window, he's got Saul that came in, Lukaku that came in, and both of them didn't turn out well. They've gone. Everyone else at Chelsea has been brought in by previous managers, previous staff room, previous board members, and Tuchel's now just got to essentially build a team out of that, rather than him knowing that these 6 players are the 6 players I bought them because I want them to start every single week, make an impact every single week. And no doubt some of those players, Mount, I'm going to say, needs to be part of Chelsea 5 years down the line. We can talk about Reece James, Chilwell, Mendy in the back, Koulibaly, so on and so forth. But there's also a lot of players, Werner, Ziyech, Callum, which is a bit of a issue as well, where whether he's going to stay or not, Pulisic, that these players have been brought in at Chelsea and now they're getting paid thousands and thousands each week, and they're not showing the enthusiasm, the passion for Chelsea to play week in, week out. And if it's not going to be the case, we should not be the ones saying, right, we'll just give them another season, give them another 5 months, because all it's going to do is put off the offers that are coming in or the clubs that are actually targeting these players. But on the other hand, in terms of goalkeeping, we've just gone and, it's been confirmed by Fabrizio, but no official announcement by the club so far. Gabriel Slonina from Chicago Fire, and which essentially clears up the news of Kepa going out on loan to Napoli this season, which is also quite a good deal for Chelsea that we've pulled off, because someone like Kepa, with the wages that we pay him to sit and bench, it is quite a good deal, no?
Exactly. And if you look at the kind of money that people like Werner make, right? So it's uh what do I call it? You have people like Mount and Reese who deliver week in, week out, who are around like maybe 80-90K a week, and then you have people making thrice the money, right? So that's poor squad planning, in my opinion, and misprofiling of players, which happens when football people are not in charge of footballing decisions. And hopefully those things change. The Michael Edwards news, I think, died out recently. I was really hopeful that we'd get that director of football in and put that structure around him. That didn't happen. Paul Mitchell's name is being bandied about, and hopefully, Boli and Tuchel find some, power sharing mechanism within them, that works. And again, on your point as well, right? So I think I was having this discussion recently that you have players like Pulisic and Ziyech as well. Ziyech is was one of my favorite players before he came to Chelsea, and I think it's just a case of the league and the system that we play not suiting him. So 4-3-3, when he's out wide, he has time to get his head up and pick passes. He's a great player, but if you ask him to play in the half space, not his greatest strength, right? And if he wants to go to Syria to a league that suits him best, he should definitely do it. Pulisic, I'm not sure, because I remember players like Robin having injuries and us thinking, okay, we need to get someone else in. But then he went on to become one of the best wingers in history. So that might happen with Pulisic, might not. But I'd rather give him another chance to prove himself. But again, up to Tuchel himself, yeah.
Yeah, I think Chelsea should not block any move for players like Ziyech and Werner. And even if it's a loan move, let it be, because if they can impress them, and eventually they will end up getting an offer. And if not from the club that they had the loan at, someone else will come in, because if they're not working at Chelsea, and if Tuchel wants to stick to the three at the back situation and that formation, then we can't really do much if there's players that are fit for a four at the back formation. But that doesn't seem to be working, because we saw against Arsenal there was a lot of fatigue, but at the same time a lot of individual performances that we were more frustrated with at the same time as well. But yeah, I'm trying to think if we've missed out on any other transfers that we might have missed out on. Not that I can remember. Dumfries, Sarr, Kepa, Batshuayi, but I guess that we're all on the same page with that one, and wanting.
I think there were rumors of Billy leaving on a permanent deal to Everton as well.
Everton.
So I think, that breaks my heart, man. I had such high hopes for Billy Gilmore, right? I just hope wherever he goes,
Yeah, I know. I agree. I thought Chelsea were going to make him the next Kante. And can we just give to Kante some props for that performance against Udinese the other day? And we can just see the difference Kante has when he's in the team compared to when he's not. Against Arsenal, we were lost, and against Udinese, not just because of the goal that he scored, but he was getting, running back and forth, still with the same stamina, and he's been in the past few months. And I feel like if he stays uninjured this season, we could be in business, because this Chelsea team turns around when he's playing in the 11.
Exactly. For me, again, a lot of people might call me delusional, but a fully fit Kante for me is still the best midfielder in the world. The sort of security he gives you, right? As in a person who can cover every blade of grass, win the ball back, and who's competent enough on the ball to sort of beat his marker, play people in. So maybe he's not Modric in terms of his vision or quality of passing, but he's a total asset, man. He'll be written about in books 20-30 years down the line, where people will say this guy came in and changed the perception of how midfield was played. So he's a great player.
Yeah, agreed. Completely agree. And in terms of Broha as well, he might be leaving. And what are your quick thoughts on Chelsea maybe heading into the season without a natural number 9, with Werner maybe leaving, Broha leaving, and then we've only got Kai Havertz as a striker then?
So Kai coming in, I think, and especially Dan Hill as well, I think the two of us were like, this guy is like a generational talent. He's going to take the Premier League by storm. But I think he's underwhelmed majorly, right?
Yeah.
So he has attributes. You see those flashes of Berbatov from time to time, where he can pluck a ball out of thin air and then sort of do stuff with it. But if a defender backs into him, he falls over. He doesn't look like he has the feet to beat people, but he's again very young, and I think with good service, he could be the kind of guy who maybe hits 10 to 15 goals a season. But whether we have the tools in the squad right now to give that sort of service, I am not too sure. If you think of his best game for me was the Fulham game where he scored twice, right? So the first goal was a brilliant ball in behind from Mason Mount, which Kai finished off. The second goal was him collecting a long ball from Chilwell and then linking up with Werner, and then a very precise finish. So that's the kind of uh, you know service he needs to be effective, which we don't supply with him with enough. And whether he's the guy to lead us to the a Champions League place or a league title this season or the next, I am not too sure. And hopefully we keep Broha or we bring someone in to sort of give competition there.
I just want to add on that with Kai Havertz. The issue I have is it's not just the fact that we might not be creating enough chances for him or the situation around him more is, but the concern I have with the chances that he gets and the chances he's made that are made for him, he doesn't end up finishing them, or there's not a lot of intent in those chances when he's trying to score a goal, which is probably the concerning part for me, because we've got Sterling. Yes, he's an incredible winger. We saw what he did in the preseason games that he played. Yes, it's preseason, but I feel like even during the season he's going to impress a lot of fans, and he's going to grow on a lot of people that didn't want him at the club. But at the same time, his finishing concerns me. And then you've got someone like Kai Havertz as well, who's struggling to finish. And then Mount is probably the only one who's been in preseason has been on target and on par with giving the opposition a few issues with their defense and goalkeeping situations. So that is probably one thing that concerns you about Kai Havertz more than the fact that there's probably not enough chances being created for him, because as we saw even in that Community Shield, I'm going to head over a bit to the Man City and Liverpool game, but Darwin Núñez probably got one or two chances and he scored one of them. And Haaland got one or two, but he missed it. And that was the difference between Liverpool and Man City on the night. Liverpool were a lot more sharper. Man City did dominate the game the first half, probably the first 50, 60 minutes, but Liverpool did end up winning because of the fact that they were good at finishing and converting their chances. So that is probably one thing that does concern me right now with Chelsea. But yeah, hoping that we do end up in a good situation. Your quick thoughts on the predictions of the Premier League. We haven't really done those with a lot of our guests, but you might be the first one. So let's head it out with the Premier League and where do you think Chelsea might end up next season?
At the risk of sounding overtly optimistic, let me put it this way. So Man City first again. I think even after losing Sterling and the other outgoings in their squad, they're still a top team. If Bernardo Silva leaves, that prediction changes. So if Bernardo Silva goes to Barcelona, then I think Liverpool have an edge. But if he stays in the squad, City first, Liverpool second, Chelsea third, and Tottenham fourth is my prediction. So Tottenham, I think, especially under Conte, when backed is world class, and Tottenham in a very non-Tottenham fashion have spent pretty well and brought in quality in this market. So yeah, I think Tottenham.
The team I'm surprised about in preseason is Arsenal. They scored 6 against Sevilla, 4 against us. Gabriel Jesus is on fire. But that is one team that scares me. If I had to pick mine, I would probably say Man City or Liverpool at first. Second would be whoever finishes second from those two, and then Chelsea third. And then the fourth one, it's like I want to say Conte, just because what he did at Chelsea, he could be doing at Tottenham. And even with that, he might even end up closing the gap and going third or second. But Arsenal and Tottenham would be a tough fight for fourth. And Man United, I think,
they
can
too many
have
holes in the squad. So yeah.
Yeah.
Regardless of who they bring in, there's too many gaps they have to fill there. So yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, they've got a lot more to worry about. And then what about the Champions League? Do you see us going a long way in the Champions League, or is it going to be another round of 16 or maybe, early exit?
I'm hoping we make it deep. As in anything beyond round of 16 is a bonus for this season. So depends again, man. So if by the end of the transfer window we get someone like Fofana in, then we get a quality wing back and a wide attacker as well, then I think we're a lot better placed, and I'd be a lot more comfortable predicting that we'll reach the semis or whatever. But there are so many quality teams in Europe right now, right? You have Real Madrid, who've basically strengthened everywhere across the pitch. I think they lost out on Mbappe, who was their only, large transfer target that they missed out on. They brought in Germany, they brought in Rudiger, and they had a class squad as it is. And then you have people like Bayern who've strengthened smartly. They've brought in people like Gravenberch, they've brought in Mazraoui, and they brought in Mane, amazing players, amazing business that Bayern has done. So all these top teams have strengthened, and competing with them isn't going to be easy, but maybe Tuchel has something up his sleeve. Let's see.
The reason I'm really confident on the Champions League side of things is because we've seen how a lot of, well, not a lot of teams, but Chelsea generally sometimes might struggle in the league but do well in the Champions League, and that's because those are one-off games or two-legged games rather than a 38-game marathon in the Premier League. So it's a lot easier to just focus on one game at a time and just take it from there, rather than losing to a relegation side team and then having to make up that loss against Liverpool or Man City next few weeks. So I'm a lot more confident, and I feel like Chelsea might be able to scrape a semi-final, if not maybe a final. But I think if we do get it to a final, then I'll be really, really sad if we lose the final. But yeah, I have high hopes. And in terms of the FA Cup and Carabao Cup, we should be winning those. Like, honestly, even last season, those games should not have gone to penalties. We should have won those cups, and we should have been, part of that Community Shield game this week.
Yep. Well, I think Lukaku had a perfectly good goal disallowed in the Carabao Cup. Who got bundled over in the FA Cup? I'm guessing. I think Konate backed into someone and pushed them over. I'm trying to remember who it was, but
I think it was Kai Havertz, if I'm not wrong.
Was it? I'm struggling to recollect. My memory is not what it was. Yeah. So we've been unlucky with refereeing decisions there as well. And did we lose 3 FA Cups on the bounce? No.
Yeah,
I think
now
it's
we
been
have
three FA Cup finals.
One
on the
against
bounce.
Arsenal, and then Leicester, and then Liverpool.
Liverpool, yep.
Liverpool.
The FA Cup used to be our thing when we won it 06-07, then there was the 1 year we didn't, and then we won it like 2 years on the bounce afterwards. So used to be our thing, but we've struggled a bit in recent years. Hopefully we find our mojo in the cup again. So.
Yeah, I think I always remember, even after winning the FA Cup, it used to be considered a not very great season because of how used to we got of winning the FA Cup. And I remember under Conte, especially after we won the Premier League, we won the FA Cup and we still got stacked, albeit because of other reasons. But that was also one of the reasons where Chelsea apparently didn't do as well as people hoped that they would. So yeah, moving on to the Everton game. Premier League kicks off this weekend. If you guys don't know, join our FPL league. Firstly, I would like to say, and I'll leave the code in the description and the links in the description. And if you do win after the whole season, if you do manage to stay on FPL after a few weeks, because we've seen a lot of players play the first few weeks and the teams just go down, and if you do so, you'll get a chance to win a Chelsea jersey from this season if you come first in that. So make sure to join that as well. But Everton, Frank Lampard's the manager. It's you can't really say anything about a Chelsea legend like him, but at the same time, the game's the game. We've in the past few years haven't had a great record at Goodison Park away from home. So your quick round up on that match before we get into who should start and the nitty and gritty of that match.
Yeah, I think Everton's one of my least favorite teams because I have memories of us losing pretty often to them, right? So there was this guy called Stephen Naismith who would go on a goal drought for like 20 matches, but then would play us and then score a hat trick. So Everton's been that bogey team, and in preseason they've blown hot and cold. But they do have players with quality, right? Dele Alli loves playing against Chelsea, and he scored a couple in preseason as well. Not too sure if he starts, but definitely a danger man. So he knows his way around the box. Then you have people like Anthony Gordon, who impressed majorly last season, right? Absolutely fearless player, loves getting on the ball, doesn't shy away from a tackle, and very very neat player. And then you have Dwight McNeil, who's just come in and who seems to be settling in as soon as he stepped into the squad. So, and there is again the added motivation for Lampard, right? He wants to get one over his old employers that way. So I think the first, at least till the table starts taking shape, right? It's all about building fitness, not picking up too many injuries, no soft muscle injuries and the like. So I just want to see us give a good account of ourselves. As in, I want us to get onto the ball, force the issue, and not be too passive with our passing like we've seen multiple times last season. So we'd go to Alonso and then he'd look around, he wouldn't have options, he would just go all the way back. And those were, I think, some of the most frustrating moments from last season. I just want us to show a little bit more initiative and a little bit more attacking verve that way. Yeah.
But I think it's also a key game in terms of us grabbing the points, because as you mentioned, until the table takes shape, you kind of have everyone just getting up to fitness and everything. And yes, injuries, that's key, but at the same time, that's a time where Chelsea can capitalize and take over. Because the way I look at it is because of how cramped up this season is and how different it is from a lot of the seasons that we're going to see in the future and we've seen in the past. And with there being a World Cup in between, we can't risk being in a position where we're post January, when the season starts again, we're sat and we need 3 points from every single game, or a draw and a win every other game kind of situation. And you've got peak players who've gotten injured during the World Cup, or right before the World Cup, and so we can't risk losing a lot of matches before, especially in my opinion. That is where we can. And we know our run at the start of the season tends to be quite impressive. We've seen it in the past few years, doing really well in the start, and then it drops off slowly. But hopefully this year it doesn't happen, and we've got the chance. Sorry about that. We've got the chance to build on it. So heading into it, I think it's clear with the goalkeeping positions, as well as defense, because we've not got a lot of options to play with in there. But your front three, essentially, in the midfield that you would start. In terms of Kante, Kovacic, and Jorginho being there, and then Mount, Werner, Havertz. Granted, they stay by the time we play them.
So the front three for me should be Sterling, Havertz, and Mount. So I think it's tried and tested. And how I see it is, leagues are won on these streaks of games that you're able to build form on, right? So you look at the Conte season, we went on this insane winning streak of like 13 14 games, where even in games like West Brom, where we were struggling to even get onto the ball, you had Fabregas and Costa combined for one goal. So that's all you need to really win leagues. You just need 11 players to build an understanding and go on this streak of that lasts over multiple weeks, and then hopefully open up a gap on the table. So I'm hoping that our front three sort of gets playing time together and builds those relationships on the pitch. So Mount, Havertz, and Sterling for me, the front three. Midfield, I'll go with Jorginho and Kovacic, because Kante and Kovacic doesn't work for me because they're very similar players in terms of they want to run with the ball. They want to, both of them don't like sitting and protecting the back four so much. Jorginho and Kovacic have this understanding between them, and I think they've had the better preseason compared to Kante. Kante isn't human, of course, but yeah. So if you see us struggling in midfield, I hope Kante comes on and sorts things out there. Wing backs again, Chilwell has looked very, very rusty in preseason. I'm not being harsh on him because I think he's a great player. He has a lot of attributes that we can use, but in preseason especially, he's looked off the pace, and he will get caught out by people like McNeil and Anthony Gordon if they are on his wing. So I think Kennedy is probably the best choice there, because Alonso, not he's a good player, but he definitely wants to leave. I don't see any point in him starting for us. Reece James obviously on the right, and then Koulibaly, Silva, and Chaloba back three there. So.
Yeah, I agree to you on that. I agree with you on that, because there's not a lot of options you've got, and the team that we started with against Arsenal compared to the team that we played against, the team that we started against Udinese, there was a lot of difference in that. And if something's worked against Udinese, I feel like it will most likely work against Everton as well, because Kante, again, as you mentioned, in that midfield area, I feel like we might start Kante just to give him some minutes and start it off, and then maybe give him a few rest breaks right off the start to preserve him. But then we've got Tottenham as well right off the bat, so we can't afford to. And Conte will want to win that game against Chelsea, because that is going to be a statement game for him as well. So it is one of those things where Tuchel's going to have to preserve a lot of players and use them smartly, because there's the lack of depth that we have right now, or the lack of form that our players have on the bench. which results to the lack of depth we have. Because yes, we've got replacements for each player, but at the same time, are those players remotely close to what we've got starting? No. And compared to where Man City, they've got a like for like replacement for almost every
Exactly.
single
Yeah.
position, and so and to a certain extent Liverpool as well, which they can afford playing Trent every other game, and Robertson and Van Dijk and so on and so forth. Where we can't, we need to save up on Silva, Kante, Koulibaly to a certain extent, maybe. And if Asby stays, then Asby as well, because he is going to be key. In that position as well. So yeah, really excited to see what Tuchel does with that. In all honesty, and against Everton, I'm just trying to think. I highly doubt with Werner and Ziyech they'll be getting any minutes. I feel like until their situation with RB Leipzig and AC Milan is sorted, Tuchel won't be giving them any minutes or be listing them on the squad. Maybe his appearance from Colwill. I feel like that could be something, or Gilmore might come on if there's no news about him going to Everton. And then Broha as well. He played against Udinese the other day in the match after the actual game, which is quite confusing because we played them twice, but in 2 days with two different squads. So it's up to Tuchel to kind of pick and choose, but in the end, it's going to be the same situation with everyone. How excited are you to see Mount this season? Because a lot of people think that this is probably the best he's going to get, but I feel like there is a lot more improvement that he's going to make in these few seasons, and the way he's played in the preseason, it looks quite promising, doesn't it?
Yep. So I think we're spoiled with players like Mbappe and Haaland, who are like, they are not the norm, right? So they're anomalies. So hitting those sorts of numbers when you're 21, 22 doesn't happen too often. And I think we lose sight of that when it comes to players like Mount and Reece. So Mount last season, I think, wasn't his best. There were a lot of games where he wasn't able to stamp his match, put his mark on the match as such. But he had a great end to the season, and he upped his output. So for a midfielder playing in attacking zones to put up those sorts of numbers is a positive, right? So uh, I'm hoping this season he becomes more of a ball dominant player, even if he is playing in those attacking zones. So he's played there for 2 years. He's put up the numbers, but now he has to start taking games by the scruff of the neck, and so sort of like what KDB does. Like every second ball goes through him. He's the guy, telling people where to go, what runs to make, and I think Mount has the quality to be that sort of player. And it's a progression he has to make. Hopefully, he does make it over the next couple of years, but age is on his side as well. So, great prospect, and we're lucky to have him in the squad.
Someone who I think could play like Mount or become like Mount, or maybe even better than Mount, is Gallagher. I think his loan spell at Crystal Palace was quite a good loan, even though it's quite a different setup. But I feel like he will fit into this Chelsea team really well, which is why Tuchel has made it very clear that he doesn't want to let him go. And that's why not a lot of people have been approaching Gallagher. And he will be part of that main squad, and I'm really excited to see what he does. I was hoping Broha stayed, but I feel like that's more like Tuchel wants another loan from him, or I guess Broha wants some more certainty about his future than another loan at Chelsea, which is why. But other than that, yeah, obviously Mount, Reece James, and Chilwell, and so on and so forth. These players, and Sterling now. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we do sign a few more players before the transfer window closes a month from now, from the day that we're recording this. The transfer window will close. Akash, thank you very much. I know it's very late in India. It's almost 1 a.m. So thank you for joining us, and thank you for giving your lovely insight on this whole on the podcast and on Chelsea. Yeah, thank you very much for watching. Those of you watching on YouTube, make sure to subscribe, leave a like rating, and if you're listening to this on an audio platform, make sure to add us to your playlist, and also like the podcast, which will notify you the next time that we upload. Follow us on all of our social media pages for the latest transfer news, as well as the follow updates on Chelsea FC, and then follow Akash as well on Twitter and all of his social media pages, which will be linked in the description below. And if you're I hope I get this right, you guys record in a Malayalam channel or a Tamil channel?
We do. It's a Malayalam channel, but we're branching into English content as well. So
Yeah,
it's called Chelsea Karen, which translates to Chelsea Wala.
yeah. So yeah, watch that channel, and on Thursdays, if I'm not wrong, you guys do the transfer talk in English. So if you're an English speaker, tune in then. And if you can speak Malayalam, then, tune in every single day on their channel. Some amazing content and amazing guests on there. So thank you for coming on, Akash. We'll hopefully have you again throughout the season and speak to you soon. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.